Welcome to Exploring Computing. Today's video is creating web pages, adding tables. So tables show up in a wide range of places. If you're writing a paper for a class and you're writing a paper on economics or history, there's a good chance you might need a table. If you're in the fine arts and you're creating a new web page for a new play you're putting on, you may want to put up a table of performances. Or if you've just created a new nonprofit and you want to put up a schedule or a directory of volunteers, you're going to need a table. So in this video, we're going to teach you how to put tables on your web pages. So we're going to use this as our example table. It's, as you might guess from looking at it, it is the score from one of the big games, Stanford 21, Cal 3. Now, since this is HTML and everything's done with tags, as you might guess, there's a table tag. And in addition to the table tag, there's a table row tag. And so we're going to enter in our information by rows. And within each row, we're going to create table data items, or TDs. There is a table column tag, but you cannot enter in data by columns. You can only enter in data by rows. The column tag is only used for formatting, and we're not going to cover it in this lecture. Okay, so I've got my table. I've got a couple table rows. I've entered my data into my cells. Am I done? Well, it turns out I'm not. If we were to take the HTML we've got displayed here and we were to put it on our web page, instead of getting this nice table on our left, which is our target, we're actually going to get the table on our right, which doesn't exactly look like a table. And so, as you might guess, what we need to do is we need to go in and add in some cascading style sheet information. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to say that my table data items should have borders. And so I'm going to give it a 1 pixel solid black border. Just a reminder, when you're working with borders, don't forget that solid. If you just say 1 pixel black, it's not going to be enough. You have to say it's solid. And I've given a 5 pixel padding, which gives me some space between the words Stanford or California and the surrounding borders. But as you can see from the top right, that's what we get with this particular style. We're still not quite there yet. That looks a little bit odd. And it turns out, and I'm not entirely sure why they did this, but it turns out that the solution to this is you need to add in a second rule specifically on the table. And we need to say that the border collapse is set to collapse. Basically, just copy it as written here. And do note that this is on the table. This is not on the table data items. Okay, so one thing that commonly shows up on tables is you have table headings and then you have standard table entries. And the difference between the headings and the table entries is the headings are in bold, and in HTML, they are also centered. So to do this, we use the TH tag instead of the TD tag. You can see I'm using the TH here, both in the style sheet. Don't forget, you need to have style rules for the TH just like you do for the TD. And also in the HTML. The only difference between a TD and a TH is the TH has a predefined setting with bold and centered. Other than that, the two are basically work the same. Arguably, the TH is also important because it does have semantic information. It is for in the web browser that is the heading, and that could be used for a variety of different purposes, including for web browsers that are reading to somebody who's visually impaired, and potentially computer programs that are processing web pages, like say the Google search bot might be able to do something knowing that something's a TH instead of a TD. All right. Now, you may have noticed I've been using Stanford and California instead of Stanford and Cal. And that's because we use Stanford and Cal, this is what we get. And one can argue that that is the correct proportions, having Stanford nice and big and Cal being small, but it does lead to a rather odd table. So what I'd prefer is something like this. And I can do that just by adding a width onto the different items. And in fact, there's a wide range of different things that you can do with the cells. meaning the THs and the TDs. And so here are some examples of some changes I've made. So I've set vertical alignment, top and text alignment to left on the Stanford TH. I've set Cal with the text aligned to right, overriding the TH's center alignment. And then you can see I put heights and widths on all the cells. All right, if we want to get fancier, we've got some other things that we might run into. So here I've got some data on Stanford geographic origins of the undergrads and grad students. And if you look at that geographic origin, notice the geographic origin actually goes across multiple columns. So how do I handle that? Well, there's a attribute value pair for the HTML called column span or col span. And basically I just need to use that. So here's the source here. You can see that instead of having 3 THs for that geographic origin, I have a single TH and I set column span equals to 3, and it just goes across all 3 of the columns. You may also notice if we go back to our output here, you'll notice that there's that line between the empty left-hand top cell and the empty cell just below it. And we might want to get rid of that. And we can do that by using row span. So you can think of it as the problem being that we have 2 empty cells, one on the top left and one in the second row on the left. And so if I can combine those 2 cells into a single cell, then I can get rid of that line. And so I can do that using this row span. And here's the source here. You can see I have that TH row span equals 2. Notice how below it, in the next row, I start off with TH California. And so with TH row span equals 2 in the first row, I completely skipped that cell in the second row. That TH row span equals 2 extends across both the rows. I do not list it in the second row. And I start off with California. And if you look at the image on the top right, you can see it does look much nicer. All right, so that gives you an idea of how to use tables on your web pages. In the homeworks, you'll get a chance to play with zebra striping, which can make your tables look much nicer. This is an example of a zebra stripe table.